O song celestial. Hello, Bhagavad Gita. Let me see what comes out of me when I read thee. Yeah, super cheesy. Yeah, so super cheesy, you know? Look at this. Oh yeah, he's got these. Oh yeah, he said he made it himself. Did you know this? Yeah, how awesome. I bet he must have a six-pack. He's probably got a really nice butt from hiking barefoot all the time. Yeah, probably. I still feel awkward about the idea of having sex. No matter how sexy I may be, it doesn't really matter. Because the way I feel may be completely different. And anyone who thinks they're sexy is ugly straight away. That's like a backlash. Every time you pride yourself, you'll be put to shame. Because that's not what you're here for. You're here to simply humble yourself. And this world is incredibly tricky in learning that. Because they'll just, they cheer on 5-year-olds for being able to yodel. You shouldn't cheer on a 5-year-old that's yodeling just because it's easy to love, It's much harder to love a guy like me who's intimidating. You get what I'm saying? So what are they cheering for? 5-year-old kids yodeling, turning them into superstars. If he's still yodeling when he's 30, that's a different thing. But yodeling at the age of 5? I just don't get this. It's like, oh yeah, so cute. Oh yeah, oh look, she can play the piano. Yeah, okay. Why can't she just do that? Why do we have to make money with this? Why can't we just let her grow up like a child? And it's often also the parents. Perhaps it cannot be stopped, but I believe my parents intervened. That I wouldn't progress in anything. Really, I have the feeling. I do believe mothers know certain things, and they can protect their children. I'm just saying. I was often taken out of things before I would get too good. Because the attention would have gotten to my head. But I was given a chance to make experiences as a child, but then I was taken out of these things. Because apparently it wasn't for me to do these things. And so I simply taught myself. At some point. Yeah. Okay, let's get through with this. Because there's still chapters to go. I haven't even reached page 20. Chapter 6. But I feel like the Bhagavad Gita is getting a bit better. So the more you ask questions, the clearer the messages also become. So maybe this is a transformative thing. Clearly is also for me, of course, because I also have to work with my doubts. So it's better to stay open-minded than to just renounce something straight away. So in order to be a true recluse or to be a true renunciate, I believe you also have to know what you're renouncing. You have to have gotten to the point where you said, yeah, okay, I had a feeling already it wasn't for me. And at some point you really have to say, yeah, it wasn't for me. And then let it go. It's like, okay, yeah, I tried movies, but I actually liked reading. and suddenly you're writing. Wow, where did that come from? Awesome. Chapter 6. Krishna speaketh, therefore who doeth work rightful to do, not seeking gain from work, that man, O prince, is sannyasi and yogi, both in one. You know, the ultimate thing, he's both in one. And he is neither who lights not the flame of sacrifice, nor setteth hand to task. Regard as true renouncer him that makes worship by work. For who renounces not work, not as yogin, so is that well said, by works the votary doth rise to faith, and saintship is the ceasing from all works. Because the perfect yogin acts, but acts unmoved by passions and unbowed by deeds, setting result aside. Let each man raise the self by soul, not trample down his self. Since, that's basically the idea of, the shame after you have masturbated. If you have masturbated, then there's no point to trample yourself even further into the ground. But you should say, hey, just be watchful, it's like a sudden, quick hand movement, and the energy you started to accumulate is just gone. So if you realize, the pressure, it's just so much, train your pelvic floor muscles. There's no use to just only stop masturbating. You also have to then work with yourself, because the reason that you released the energy was because you're too weak, you were sitting too much, your spine is broken, hold your planks, go hiking barefoot. You really need to, get your weaknesses out. Your feet have to be strong. And then everything will slowly get back into shape. But that will take some time. So have patience. I started hiking barefoot in 2012. And in 2019 I had my Reiki initiation. Then I did a lot of this, also ayahuasca, for maybe 2-3 years. So, which is just drinking a lot of bitter in guided night-long meditations, basically. But it was like shared dreaming. And then... But I still was just doing a lot of other things like rapé. I just had to experiment with myself. I really had to confront my own shadow. I was, really hooked on porn. And that slowly all kind of fell away. So I believe there has to be some speck of light ahead in the future. So if you're a man a bit like me, and you were really attracted to porn, then my idea is to you, just say, okay, I'm just gonna find one woman and, this time I'm just gonna marry her. So you have to really put yourself out there and just see where you land and then who you meet. And you don't just go for any woman, It's probably gonna be a tough one. Just a woman that sticks also emotionally. It could be quite hectic, of course. Depending on how you are, if you're like a really calm whatever, then you're probably gonna get a really calm woman. But I'm not a super calm guy. I'm getting calmer, but I'm still on fire. I feel like a bit like purgatory. I'm being burned. Yeah, I think I want to drink a bit of tea. See, now I can also include the pouring of the tea, the sound of the pouring of the tea into the recording. It and make it even more. Whatever. Okay, now I'm gonna take the big. I'm really enjoying the warmth that we're now in summer. In summer. There's nothing like feeling, you know, you're moving on. Just have to witness the cup. Also have to check. Okay, it's 10 to 5. I could of course do more laundry after this chapter. Because I haven't done laundry in some while, because I wasn't sure on how to proceed. So I had to gather information first. You see what I'm saying? This is the Gita, my friend. So my mind just does it, you know? That's what I like. So your mind is a supercomputer, which is why cleansing is beneficial to you. It just makes life so interesting because you can really play ball in your mind in conversations. Okay, you want to hear somebody pouring tea into a cup in total zen? Because he knows that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to include this in this recording. That's what I'm giving to you now. So the creative process usually starts really, I don't want to do this. Why am I still doing this? I have no hope left. And then you get into this high place where you're like, yeah, it's super nice, you know, I'm having a really good time. And then at some point it's like, why am I still doing this? Why didn't I stop 2 hours ago? Am I still going? Well, then you know you're hitting some kind of like a sore spot in yourself. Okay, hear this. Wait. Yes, sometimes you have a few hours of relief. So, you know the saying, which was on Auschwitz. Auschwitz, you know what this means? To sweat out. Yeah, did you ever know this? Auschwitz. To sweat out. That's the, you know, like the concentration camp that was like one of the famous ones. And it said, I'm not advocating, you know, World War II ideologies or something. I'm just saying it is interesting because on the before entry or something, it said something like, I haven't been there. That's just what I heard from school. Yeah, work liberates. Arbeit macht frei. And it's true. You know, that's the crazy part. So I don't actually know what really happened in Second World War. I just know that partly the industry sprang out of it. You know, part of it. It started probably earlier, but so it cannot be really good what happened there. A lot of black magic and stuff. Just really dark times. But maybe... yeah. So I don't know. You see, people like me, during times like this, like Second World War, would have probably been confiscated and sent to these camps. You know, I'm not kidding. Because the Jew, the star, the swastika, if it is called like this, no, I think that's there's the Jew star. It's yellow, it's like a sun. So I'm more like a sun. So they would have taken me. And during times of the Inquisition, if they would have gotten me, yeah, they maybe, right, would have, I don't know. It's hard to say, maybe they wouldn't have. Because I haven't lived back then. And just relying on the stories isn't really accurate. So yeah. Which is why it's better to keep an open mind than to sit around and to cling to, yeah, that's what happened. I'm completely... I mean, they taught this in school about how bad it is, what they did with the Jews. And you just look at what we're doing today and you say, well, they're still doing it to the pigs. I mean, they're cutting down trees everywhere. I mean, that isn't much better. At least Second World War reduced the population. But then it just got worse. So, is it getting better or is it getting worse? Well, if I leave the house, people are cutting down trees. You know, 5-year-olds are running around with smartphones. They don't know what's real anymore. I mean, this is like... I have said this before. Well, we can be certain at the very least that they had no smartphones when this was written. If it was written, when they say it was written, like a long time ago. Or some time ago. You know, there was no porn. Yeah, they probably had some kind of shady prostitutes, but this was a different kind of a life. Like, think of the Middle Ages. We think it was all dirty and it was all stinking. Yeah, but there were also people living in the wild. You know? Sure, it seems terrible if you look at it from, yeah, I have my own apartment, you know, and in winter I turn on the radiator. But imagine you would take someone from the wild, place him in such a place, in a society like this. He would go nuts, man. He wouldn't know what people want from him. What are you doing here, you know? Aren't you supposed to, like, look for food? No, you go to the shop to buy it. Yeah, but it doesn't squeal. You know, I want to risk my life hunting. You know, I want to set traps. Yeah, the only people who set traps here are drug dealers. And even that has been made publicly available, because now the drug dealers are selling chocolate openly in stores, and alcohol and tobacco. It's just the unofficial drug dealers that will catch you in parks or on some kind of a party, you know, like acting super friendly, just trying to get you hooked. Yeah, they'll steal your dream and you won't notice. So yeah, I got out of it partly because I continued to pay attention so I can differentiate myself and say, hey, I think we must really be different. But I tried. Today's beautiful weather, by the way, but I'm sacrificing it for Saturday's hike so I can work this off. Because the next book I'll have to read, which I may not do immediately. Why? I'm in high spirits, you know. A Treasure Island, Robert Louis Stevenson. That's a bit a longer read, with fairly small print. But Portals Through Life still needs some work in my mind. I have to get ready for this. Now's the time to just further my like the time span between content that is being released. So yeah, YouTube is just turned into some kind of a new shape without me, but my voice. And that is much better because I can stand here, I can hit record, and I look presentable. Like, don't get me wrong. That's also the idea. I don't want to slouch off any longer. That's why I choose to stand now. Again. But I'm more stable than before. Because between the last time I recorded for YouTube, which is when the camera broke, suddenly I had this action cam, it's just started to fail. Well, now okay, sorry, but that's something I may have to do. It still does fairly short recordings. And I use this to so I have the idea I will record a plant, something green, and this will be for the background of the video. Yeah, just in the meantime, should I pause this? Yeah, I'll just pause it. Just give me a second. Hey, it stopped at 22 minutes and 55 seconds. Okay, one thing, I just felt like just sorting out the laundry first. I'll do it tomorrow. Why? Because I have to save time. Also on social encounters. Because sometimes you feel like you want to do something. But because we have let go of this, you know, I'm a human, I'm a piece of flesh, I'm a spirit. And I can feel when other spirits are trying to call me. So I just earlier washed one batch of laundry, this is now drying. Now if I go now again, then I'm missing this time. And I feel like I may meet someone that I may not want to meet. Just a neighbor in the house. So I choose to do it tomorrow. Why? Because then it's more efficient. If I go tomorrow to collect the laundry that is then dry, I can then put a new batch of laundry in, which saves me one time going up and down. If I do it today, then I also have to do it again tomorrow, so I can save the one from today, focus on, maybe finishing this work, or at least try to get further with it, and then I can at some point eat. Or at the very least, I can already start rendering the videos, because at some point you clearly will be just kind of burned out. So yeah, I'm now at chapter 6. Yeah, it's 18 chapters. I'm not gonna do it all today. So I also have to set myself a deadline now. And the deadline will be 7. I just said that, right? Okay, now it's 5:30. Because I started fairly early. I have now already more than 7 to 8 hours talking. Okay, there was just one thing while I was sorting out the laundry for tomorrow's wash, which was that, this idea of renouncing fruit of actions, it's just not possible. Anyone who says that should have never done anything. But if you do hardening, then you have a reason. You're doing hardening because you've probably been too soft. So renouncing fruit of actions, I mean, I'm going hiking so I can hike more. Renouncing fruit of actions, well, why do you eat then? Well, I don't want to take responsibility, I want to eat, but I don't want to take responsibility for having eaten. Well, fruit of actions, you've eaten, you're gonna defecate. Okay, that's a fruit, in a sense, a very a hummus. Why do feces stink bad? Yeah, only because your diet is terrible. If you have a good diet, you eat, you shit. Better get used to it. But if you have a good diet, mostly a diet without sugar and yeast, it will smell alright. Plus it's just a natural process. And that's also the thing, in nature, you would never ever feel kind of ashamed of shitting or taking a crap. Why? Because it's fertilizing the earth. Just imagine, you'd just be living in nature. Hey, I'm gonna fertilize the earth. Awesome, man. Nice, And what do we do here? With all the water, it's such a waste. It seems more clean, but it's just we don't like to look at the dirt here. People don't. I like it. I looked at the dirt until I could distinguish myself from it. Yeah, just a lot of work. Just a lot of work. Just did a lot of work, just a lot of work, yeah, a lot of work. Okay, where were we? Okay, but now it says, regard as true renouncer him that makes worship by work. Okay, you renounce one thing, but you embrace another. That's what you have to know. You don't just run around, renounce everything. That's what I'm saying. If you renounce everything, nothing's gonna be left, and then what are you gonna work? And after you've worked for today, what are you gonna eat? Because you need to sustain yourself. Just doing breath work may become a little bit boring. Perhaps, I'm not sure, right? Depends on you. Regard as true renouncer him that makes worship by work. For who renounces, saith, not works, not as yogin. So is that well said, by works the votary doth rise to faith, and saintship is the ceasing from all works. Okay, but that you have to really acquire. But why would you ever stop working? I mean, at some point maybe you just have enough. Yeah, and then you pull back a little. But you can, I mean, if you lead an active life, you learned how to be whole, you healed yourself, you realized where your boundaries are. I mean, why should you stop? You can crochet till the rest of your life. Sainthood seems awfully dishonest. It seems like you've acquired something. But in that sense, there's nothing to acquire. You're here to live. You know, if you give up, then you say, I'm a saint now, you know, now I don't want to soil myself anymore. I don't want to get dirty, you know, with you other critters, you know, I'm better now. I'm now a saint. Oh yeah? You know, stop working, you know, is that what you're doing? Getting too lazy now? Just before liberation? You want to stop? What for, you know? Do your knitting, my friend. Sit there, shut up, do your knitting, peel your potatoes, because if you turn to sagehood or sainthood, then you must let go of eating. That's what I believe. And then you will slowly fade away. And that, of course, is the real challenge. You can do this. You can at some stage just stop eating, and then you'll just fade away, and then you can die calmly without getting overly sick and just embrace this last journey. And that's a completely different approach. But just being a saint, you know, that's nothing. If you just stop working, then you also have to stop eating. Because as long as there's some juice left, well, let it flow. Keep on going. You know, it'll end one day anyway. If you don't want to continue, then you stop eating and then you'll die. I believe this is what Steve Jobs did. I believe he wanted to die. That's what I truly believe. Because I believe that he actually saw that what he created wasn't all that good. Because he was a smart man, connecting the dots. He may have never said it, but I believe that was the reason why he died so early. There is no reason to die from cancer at such a young age, relatively young. I believe he wanted to die, which I understand. Because what he created turned into tools for mass manipulation. And he could already see that while he was still working, right? So cancer is simply you stop channeling. You stopped with doing things. You stop working and then you'll die. And he got thinner and thinner. People just label it as cancer so they can market it. So that if you have whatever this is, you know, they can give you expensive treatments. Just keep going into nature. Nobody dies of cancer who knows how to cleanse themselves properly. And I'm not talking about using an irrigator once a week. I'm talking about emotionally letting go, going barefoot into nature, and then just do it like a rabbit does it. Once you feel you're really dying, you just, I don't know, find some hollow tree. That's how the gorillas do it. So I've just been reading Gorillas in the Mist. Not all of it, but enough of it. So it's just hard to find, of course, places in the forest where you can just let your body go, or this form or whatever. I mean, if this is waking up, then death is a bit like going to sleep. So be a bit greedy for being awake, because it will stop. So yeah, all this, you know, I go hiking because I want to also pass this on. There is no doing something without at least wanting something. There's always an intention. If there was no intention, then you would never do anything. Even if the intention is I actually want to die, there's always an underlying intention. And I was being called for action. Seriously. Like, I was being pestered through spirit that there was things I had to do. And I always said, I just want to chill, people, you know. I just want to chill. So hiking barefoot seems to you really insane. Or maybe showering cold. Or letting go of. But I just wanted to be relaxed, you know. I just wanted to be relaxed. Which means you want to be resting in yourself. Because you actually feel comfortable in your temple. For that you have to clean it out. There's no way around this. It's hard work, but it's very gratifying. Very gratifying. Yes, my friend, it's a very gratifying. Very gratifying. Never underestimate this kind of work. Okay. So yeah, setting results aside. If I'm not interested in the results, then why should I do something? I am creative because I wanted to see results. And why? Because in politics, everyone's just talking, they just worship words, but they do nothing. Right? So I just kept on working. You can say, well, you're talking an awful lot. Yeah, but that's just part of my business. And I'm explaining the world I perceive through words with the method, the vehicle of language. But I'm expressing an incredibly hard and selfish, selfless. It should go together. It's also selfish and selfless. Selfless. Yeah. To me it's both. As much for my own benefit as for everyone else's. Well, how does society benefit? Well, they're all in the dump. And they feel terrible. They're just trying to hide it. Cover it up. Deo, perfume. Right? They just try to fool themselves. And that isn't going to be very nice for the next couple of decades. So while I'm around, I intend to leave an impact. So become a meteor of truth. So you have to know what you're talking about. That's what I'm telling you. You have to really do your honing. Hone the skills that you find you need. Whatever this is. And then just build up strength. Build up stamina. Gather information. You know, there is also a good kind of greed. But don't run after these things, because that will just get you to psychedelics. Like, build it up. Build it up. You can have insights with anything. Anything you cling to. You just work hard to let it go smoothly. So, watch movies until you're... now I can let it go. You watch it until it gets so boring because you finally realize, oh, that's why I've been watching movies. Somehow all these movies had something with nature in it. I just wanted to get into nature and I was just too chicken to do it. Or I never thought I never realized I should just build it up. I was just too dependent. There were too many things I wanted to do at once. Also do this still and that still and this still and that still, and then I also want to smoke, but also I think I should breathe, but what's about the smoking? So but why do you want to smoke? I mean, It doesn't really make you more alive. It makes you more dead. So, yeah, we're not fruitarians. And cows aren't vegans. I don't know how many, but they eat a lot of insects. Yeah, and horses as well. There aren't really true vegans. Okay, bees maybe. But how many maybe they eat their larvae. Maybe there's larvae that die. Maybe they, who can tell? But I'm just saying, okay, some animals maybe. But we live longer than bees. Bees don't live that long. It's just we have a different system. We need different things. So I believe that we do need also animal protein. It may be not, but usually it's like hunter-gatherers, that's what I get. That's what I understand. So trying to get there is really hard. I mean, I think it would be awesome to catch a wild hare in the forest, or even a squirrel. I wouldn't mind. You can make your own blow darts or something. I mean, there's enough poisonous plants out there. So there's so much you can do. So why? I think I'd only stop working if I'd really have nothing. Like lost my will to live. Like I'm just not really interested then. But why would I get there? You see what I'm saying? Why? Why is this something I should attain? I worked hard to be stable. So I'll die when I die. Maybe the best thing that could happen to you is you'll just die on a hike. And then they'll say, he did what he loved best, being a nuisance to lazy people. Yeah, exactly. Pestering nature. And all for good cheer. Yeah, for what else? I'd rather live like a pirate and hunt some kind of a treasure. And go on a treasure hunt. Because every insight I have is like a treasure. That's what I'm basically dealing with. That's the treasure of a man's life or of a woman's life. It is trying to see, okay, let's get this stable till the end. And then making experiences that you can also look back on, that also help you to continue growing. And at some point you maybe just get to the point where you say, yeah, it's alright now. I don't have to go all the way hiking anymore. You see then the youths, they're doing their own hiking, they're getting used to nature again. You've taught a lot of people ornithology. You've done your bit. And then you retreat. And maybe then it's like a bit what Bilbo said. I just want some quiet time then. Write my book. Yeah, in a way. A bit I am there, but I'm clearly still looking for adventure. So yeah, you have to see where your life is going to get you. Bit by bit, it's going to show. And then you have to choose. And then the fruits of your actions, yeah, I mean, I'm more like a Sikh then. I think it's called S-I-K-H. So it's someone, just a man of the world. I mean, you have your realization, your instance of awakening or your enlightenment or whatever, but you prefer to live a good life as a man. To also contribute, to have a wife, to have children, to eat meat, that kind of stuff. I'm getting hungry. Let each man raise the self by soul, not trample down. Oh, that's where. Wow. That's where I jumped off. Not trample down his self. Since soul, that is self's friend, may grow self's foe. Yeah, we all know about that one. Soul is self's friend when self doth rule over self. But self turns enemy if soul's own self hates self as not itself. But self turns enemy if soul's own self hates self as not... Yeah. It's too complicated, then you can just... The sovereign soul of him who lives self-governed and at peace is centered in itself, taking alike pleasure and pain. Yeah, I mean, we all know that pain can be kind of pleasure. Heat, cold, glory and shame. He is the yogi, he is yukta, glad with joy of light and truth. Dwelling apart upon a peak, with senses subjugate whereto the clod, the rock, the glistering gold show all as one. By this sign is he known, being of equal grace to comrades, friends, chance comers, strangers, lovers, enemies, aliens, and kinsmen, loving all alike, evil or good. Sequestered should he sit, steadfastly meditating, solitary. It's in a way also a lonely road. You know, you gotta stop with hugging all kinds of people. It's probably the reason why you cannot really keep yourself together. It's like people are so toxic here. There's some people running around, they have such incredible, like bad, you can call it bad karma, it's just toxic karma. You shake their hands, you go home, it's like, wow, The problem is you've identified already with it. Now you have to identify with yourself. So stop touching people all the time and stop, people cannot touch you anymore. That's the energy you need to make sure your dream, may get you to sainthood, I mean, it's something you can attain if you work hard, but it's a lonely road. Okay. Sequestered should he sit, steadfastly meditating, solitary, his thoughts controlled, his passions laid away, quit of belongings, in a fair, still spot, having his fixed abode. Okay, his fixed abode. So you can have a cave. A cave can be an apartment. Not too much raised, nor yet too low. Let him abide, his goods a cloth, a deerskin, and the kusa grass. Okay, when this was written, did they have severe cold? Good question. Hard to answer. There, setting hard his mind upon the one, restraining heart and senses, because it's, in a sense, easier if you're living in some kind of... It's harder when it gets cold, is what I believe. Of course, severe heat is also hard. There, setting hard his mind upon the one, restraining heart and senses. So his mind upon the one means also to just bring duality always together. To realize there are sometimes these opposing ideas in yourself about how things should be. So you have to bring them together. That's why you focus on the one, and that's then your direction. Restraining heart and senses, silent, calm, let him accomplish yoga and achieve pureness of soul, holding a movable body and neck and head. You see how much hardening this takes? How much you have to practice this? How you have to, harden your resolve. Why I tell you hike barefoot if you come out of this society. Use a good pounding, my friend. Hold your planks, and then start with the headstand, and then move in other forms until these forms become stable, like the peacock, like the scorpion, right? Whatever attracts you, the crow. Do your planks with straight arms, and when you're firm and you become, and then you sit, okay, then you could do it. But maybe that's not for now. Maybe that's for later. Maybe, later when you're 90 or something. Maybe then you'll sit like this and meditate. So you have to take life in stages. If you're still in the I feel like running around, then do it. I run around less. I have now, this for me works that on Saturdays, that's what I do now, I go into a hike. I don't want to be too fixed on anything, but until now I'll just keep doing it. I don't want to think too much about it, but for now this seems good. I have been testing a lot of other things. This seems good. I need to simply recharge and let go and just open up and all that kind of stuff. And while I'm hiking barefoot, my feet are being massaged, and I usually stretch out my chest. I also do breath holds while walking. Sometimes I lose track of where I am while doing this. So yeah, it's just, it's gotta be your own way. But yeah, okay, winter is still a challenge. Restraining, but heat also. That is true. Heat is also, of course, a challenge. Which is why I usually like autumn. Pureness of soul. Okay. Holding immovable body and neck and head. His gaze absorbed upon his nose end. Okay, that's probably one way of doing it. Wrapped from all around, tranquil in spirit, free of fear, intent upon his brahmacharya vow. That's what Gandhi did. It means refraining from sexual action. And that's probably something you can do later, right? You can have, as a couple, you can enjoy having sex with each other, and when you have had your children, you can both retreat from this. Whether you then never cuddle again, well, that is hard to say. But it's inappropriate in a way. If you're amongst other people, you shouldn't cuddle. You shouldn't kiss, it's my belief. That's all just when you're alone together. Because it feeds greed. And it's in a way unnecessary if in spirit you are already connected. Okay. Brahmacharya vow. Devout, musing on me. Musing on me? What? Why is he always referring to himself? Lost in the thought of me? No, just life. This is not a me, it's life. It's not a Krishna, it's life. It's not a Vishnu, it's life. Yeah, let it be nature, but it's all life. This is not a manifest deity. In that sense, it's everything together. It's not gonna come into your life as a person. That's just one facet of something. You want to look at the whole, which is why this Krishna guy is then just like you. Just thinking himself to be something. That's what I believe. Because I have met people like this. But I don't like this. It's too indoctrinated already. Musing on me, lost in the thought of me. Nah, I don't want to dwell on you, man. You've got form. I want to look at the formless. Maybe, I want to look at trees. I want to look at that which doesn't tell me to look at it, or even expects me to look at it, right? I want to maybe look at birds who just do their thing. They don't want to be observed by me. I'm not sure. It's it sounds a bit too selfish. That yoyin, so devoted, so controlled, comes to the peace beyond, my peace, the peace of high nirvana. Yeah. You see, this is like the ego thing. It just keeps slipping into this character of Krishna. So it's not really that which it claims to be. It's just false, which is why don't worship people. Don't worship, people, even if you think it's a manifestation, Marvel at nature. Appreciate the people that you know, but don't worship people. Worship nature. If you worship people, it's going to get to their heads. And they're going to believe they're overly important. So worship nature together. As a community, that's possible. But not people. Not single people. Don't worship your children. Don't overly worship your wife. Have your wife in your heart. But, if there's worship in a marriage, then it has to be both ways. There's no use in acting like, yeah, my wife's overly important. There's no use in acting like the husband's overly important. Because we should treat each other in that sense a bit like equals. I'm just saying. So if then I'm your husband, then you as a woman have to live up to the task. And if you're my wife, then I as a husband have to live up to the task. So we can, support each other. Otherwise, why do you want to be married, if you don't want to support anyone? Is it just selfish? No, it cannot be. It has to be also giving and receiving. Selfish love is super boring. That yoyin, so devoted, so controlled, comes to the peace beyond, my peace, the peace of high nirvana. But for earthly needs, religion is not his who too much fasts or too much feasts, nor his who sleeps away in idle mind, nor his who wears to waste his strength in vigils. Nay, Arjuna, call that the true... Okay, now I have to look up. This is just gonna be a bit longer again, with a lot of nonsense in between. If you can make sense out of it, good job. There's a lot of stuff going on in my mind while I'm talking here. There are still visions coming in. There's stuff flushing through me. I just have to look up now how piety, because I am learning while I am trying to teach here, right? So it's a bit unrefined, and I like it that way. It's rough, it's raw, that's me. Hello, good day, sir. I'm gonna start reading Wizard of Earthsea very soon. Just to myself, right? Okay. Piety. The quality of being religious or reverent. Acts of piety and charity. Okay, origin. Early 16th century. In the sense, devotion to religious observances. From Old French piet or something. From Latin pietas, dutiful. And now we can look up pious, where that leads us to. But piety, dutifulness, and that's devotion. So the quality of being religious or reverent, no, that's not it. Because religion is not necessarily devotion to something that helps you to progress. Religion is often just a fixed set of beliefs and gives you little freedom of self-discovery, which is exactly what you need to be an individual, which is why religion is not practiced in a tribe. We don't want to be a religion. We just want to get by, us as individuals, which is why a tribe or a commune, should have its own way of doing things, which is why only individuals should come and form a commune, which is why you have to work hard to live in a community and then be ready. Yeah, okay, and then the children come into this, you assist them, and then there's a certain way of doing things. But yeah, one child may want something else, well, whatever. But in this commune, we do it in this way, so get used to it. Or go and form your own one. Late Middle English from Latin pious, dutiful, pious. Okay. Pious, devoutly religious, a deeply pious woman. Religion is just simply dishonest. Because it's you under the mantle of this bigger thing, and you're just trying to identify with it and behave in the way that you believe now other people in this religion would expect you to behave. And these people that you now imagine that would expect you to behave in a certain way would all be imaginary, because there's too many people under the flagship of this religion. And then you just feel like, oh wow, we're so many, we're all doing it like this. Yeah, I'll rather join the free people, the free souls. Yeah, so one commune will be completely different from another commune. And that's basically how it is in the Amazonian rainforest. And there's some that succeed, others, fail straight away. But every commune is, in that sense, doomed. Nothing lasts. No matter what you build, it will never exist forever. Ever. Nothing. Because if there's a commune you started, well, it either goes down or it keeps growing. If it keeps growing, well, then at some point you've got the same situation we have today. It is inevitable. But to me, it is just much better to at least contribute to going a bit backwards or forwards. So it's still kind of the middle path. Pious, okay. Archaic, dutiful or loyal? Yeah, loyal. I can get that, loyal to the commune, especially towards one's parents. Okay, bam, 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 slap in the face. Of a hope, sincere but unlikely to be fulfilled. Hey, so you need faith. Pious fraud. Yeah, you see. A deception intended to benefit those deceived, especially to strengthen religious belief. That's just what I've been saying, man. I'm not sure yet if I'm done with reading Gorillas in the Mist. I started to get a bit bored by it. Sometimes I just leave off books. I started to read Guide to the Galaxy, but I'm not very convinced that this is going to help me to be serious. Oh my god. Okay. That the true piety which most removes earth aches and ills, where one is moderate in eating and in resting and in sport, measured in wish and act, sleeping betimes, waking betimes for duty. So sometimes you will just wake up during the night, ask yourself, what can I do now? Hold consciousness. Because you may not get this, but if you stay up during the night, you also hold up consciousness for others. If I do something like this, I'm holding up consciousness for others. This is a form of meditation. So if I manage to stay up longer and longer and be conscious for longer and longer, then other people can connect with me. Because they think of me, they won't be rejected. That opens their hearts, and then they have someone, right? And that's how also, internet works. If I have content and I make sure I stand erect and stable, then people can connect with it, and then there's kind of like probably there's spirit in what I create. Yeah, maybe there's not, I don't know. That's my idea. I believe it works. When the man, so living, centers on his soul the thought, straightly restrained, untouched internally by stress of sense, then is he yukta. See, steadfast a lamp burns, sheltered from the wind. Such is the lightness of the yogi's mind, shut from sense storms and burning bright to heaven. When mind broods placid, soothed with holy wand, when self contemplates self, and in itself hath comfort, when it knows the nameless joy beyond all scope of sense, revealed to soul, only to soul, and knowing wavers not, true to the farther truth. When holding this, it deems no other treasure, comparable but harbored there, cannot be stirred or shook by any gravest grief, called that state peace, that happy severance, yoga. Call that man the perfect yogin. Yeah, okay, but that's just one image. Then, one guy is one image of, okay, he's gotten there. He figured himself out. So, you see me, that's just okay. He became an individual. He found certain things. That's how it turned out for him. Don't try to copy me. Just know that you simply have to continue following your own intuition. So life is the teaching. There is no one person that's going to be your teacher. Life is the teaching. Steadfastly the will must toil thereto, till efforts end in ease. Yeah, that I can agree with. Steadfastly the will must toil thereto, till efforts end in ease. That's what I often have. This is what the idea you have of sex, tantra. It's really hard work, and in the end you're both like, yeah. And so also with children, you father children or mother children, and then you bring them through, and then you have a lot of effort until you get the hang of it, and then it's more like, okay, now it's safe, So you work hard to crochet a hat, like sometimes I crocheted for hours through the night, just drank green tea and just continued crocheting until my project was done. And that's really hard work, because I raise what I'm crocheting. So I sit in this kind of meditative posture. I also have crocheted while standing. And then I raise what I'm crocheting, on eye level. So I'm looking straight, so I'm not slouching. Yeah, imagine the strain it puts on your neck and shoulders, on your hands to hold this and to, weave the string into... It's hard work. That's what you have to understand. But the more you harden, the more effort you put in, at one point you just know, I just have to push through, and then in the end, and that's how you give others stability, because you've already done it. When the first one joined me for a hike, freely, out of his own free will, that's just one experience I have now. I already had, I don't know, maybe 30 hikes in the bag. Okay, maybe that's a bit overkill, it's hard to say. But I already had a lot of these hikes in the bag. So you ease more into it. You can suddenly imagine, okay, I don't want to take this too far because I haven't really, it's not that safe yet that what I'm doing is actually gonna work. And I just have a good feeling about it, that if I continue to hike and advertise hikes, that people are gonna join me, and then at least, we can hike together. We can build bonds with each other. Not with everyone. And then see what's gonna come out of it. Well, at least stronger human beings. But I could imagine guiding to 2 or 10 people through a hike. You know, however many it is, it's then part of the challenge. So you don't know, right? I mean, you say, hey, you know, every Sunday I'm gonna hike. You don't know how many will show up, or no one. Okay. I want to get this over. Just this chapter. Why is this one so long? Why do I have to say so much? The spirit passionless, purged from offense. So you're just leeching off my good mood. I hope you get that. You know, if you've had enough, start doing your own suffering. Because this is still suffering. Right? That's my message. Yeah, it's nice. You can listen to this. Yeah, but what are you doing? How are you contributing? Well, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, okay, do your cleansing. It isn't supposed to be just listening to this, you know, hearing how happy I am. This should be your thing to say, okay, maybe I should push off a little. Like, not push work off, but, you know, work hard. So I can really start moving into the future and start building my dream. You know, why are you listening to me? I talk to you, I want a wife and children. Well, what are you doing to achieve this? So, you're on your own, my friend. I'm not gonna do this for you. And you ain't gonna do anything for me. So, you just gotta do it for yourself. And maybe also the idea of the woman that may join you. And then you're in this together. And you better treat her then with respect. Phew, I'm getting a bit annoyed. Not really annoyed, to be honest. I just have my stinger ready for people who cling too much to listening to me. Because I don't want to be your solution. I just want to be mirroring you. I really worked hard. And that's what it said here. Till efforts end in ease, and thought has passed from thinking. That's then Zen, of course, acting upon a feeling. Shaking off all longings bred by dreams of fame and gain. Shutting the doorways of the senses, closed with watchful ward. Okay, that hits me a bit more. Because I don't want fame. I want attention. That isn't really fame. Fame is like people sucking up to you. I don't want people sucking up to me, it's disgusting. But I want to wash people's heads, you know. I want to tell people, what are you doing? Why are you listening to me? You know, go hiking in nature. Build yourself up, become strong. Do something. No, earn this. That's what I want to do. But how long would you do it? Question. It's hard to answer. And if it never comes, then I also wouldn't do it, of course. Shaking off all longings bred by dreams of fame and gain, shutting the doorways of the senses close with watchful ward. So step by step it comes to gift of peace assured and heart is assuaged. When the mind dwells self-wrapped and the soul broods cumberless. But as often as the heart breaks, wild and wavering from control, so oft let him recurb it, let him rein it back to the soul's governance. So, rein it back to the soul's governance. Yeah, that's how you feel if you're a bit shaken. Yeah. And then the soul needs to be steadfast. For perfect bliss, so the emotional storm, so you stop identifying with the emotion, and then the emotion becomes interesting. You can say, interesting that I could ever feel like this. You know, so you're not becoming jealousy, but you say, interesting that I'm so super jealous, you know. Is it justified? Well, if I can trigger you a little with it, there's no use playing at life if you cannot catch people a little. So yeah, if I say something and it gets you annoyed, just know that you're annoyed at yourself because I caught you off guard. You were slouching, like really slouching into this recording. It's like, oh yeah, he's got such a good mood. I can just... No, do your planks, man. What are you doing? You're not going to fall asleep now. You have to stay awake, my friend, because I may be already dead when you're listening to this. Because I'm recording this, like 1 year ahead in the future. So you gotta really pay attention. You gotta really be active. Your life is passing. Unless, of course, you've done enough for today. You have to know how much time you have. I'm just telling you, you're running out of time. It's getting less, And every time you sit around watching a movie, you have less time being a father. Damn it! But that's what I wanted, I wanted to be the perfect dad, yeah. And then Netflix came. And then YouTube came. And then instead of becoming a man yourself, you were looking for a man on the internet. Why were you looking for a man on the internet? Why are you listening to me for? Because that's what you wanted. Now you have to work hard to get there on your own. You don't want to talk like me. I'm just a reference point. I'm just telling you, this is really hard work. That's what you need. So life gets less boring, so hardship, until all efforts end in ease. You get it? Okay. For perfect bliss grows only in the bosom tranquilized, the spirit passionless, purged from offense, vowed to the infinite. Yeah, that I also try to maintain as much as I can. I love the feeling of the infinite. And you're always ever going to graze it. It's going to start pulling you in. I like the feeling. He who thus vows his soul to the Supreme Soul, quitting sin, passes unhindered to the endless bliss of unity with Brahma. He so vowed, so blended, sees the life soul resident in all things living, and all living things in that life soul contained. And whoso thus discerneth me in all, and all in me, I never let him go, nor looseneth he hold upon me. But dwell he where he may, whatever his life, in me he dwells and lives, because he knows and worships me. No, he worships life, my friend. You're just someone. Who dwell in all which lives. You see, I don't want to worship someone who identifies with being something. I don't think a tree identifies with being a tree, it just is a tree. So I don't want to identify with people who think they are something, because then they're trying to usually project a certain image. So I'm trying to be as natural as I can be, so the best meditation to me is like a gorilla kind of meditation, where that is also why you stop looking at your mirror, at your reflection in a mirror. At your reflection in a mirror. So you speak, and then you realize, why am I speaking like this? And then it's a feeling. You see what I'm saying? And then it becomes a feeling. So me now with a giant beard and long hair, it's a feeling. I had to get used to this. I threw away the scissors I used to trim my beard. Just threw them away. I just didn't want to keep them. I could have used them for cutting paper, but I had to throw them away because I bought them for the purpose. They were hair trimming scissors. I just had to get rid of the option. I'm still struggling with the slack line, I have to be honest. Well, it could be for later. I'll just let my life decide. Because maybe it will be for a later stage. Just not for now. Steadfastly, the will must. Okay. Yeah, I like washing people's minds a little. Because he knows and worships me, who dwell in all which lives, and cleaves to me in all. Arjuna, if a man sees everywhere, taught by his own similitude, one life, one essence in the evil and the good, hold him a yogi, he well perfected. Arjuna speaketh. Slayer of Madhu, yet again this yoke, this peace, derived from equanimity, made known by the I see no why? Yeah, I do slip, you know. It's not that I never slip, I do slip. Especially when you're going out like this, because now I'm opening up. So you also have to know when to open up. Here I can open up, because who's gonna injure me? But there's people I won't open up with, which is certainly understandable. Because yeah, harden yourself all you want. Harden yourself all you want. Hey, why is this not working? Ah, there it is. Didn't know the word. Equanimity. Well, enmity. Animus. It's spirit. It's probably something with spirit in it. Sometimes you can actually get the words. And then you also have equability. We're now looking for equanimity. And also equanimous. An equal and spirit. So equal, spirit. So maybe it's just balanced. Equanimity, calmness and composure. Especially in a difficult situation. Aha. See? Balanced. Equal spirit. Hey, wow. Well, here it says now mind. But I know that animus also means spirit. Early 17th century, also in the sense fairness, impartiality, from Latin equanimitas, from equus, equal, plus animus, mind. Yeah, I didn't feel like reading Gorillas in the Mist anymore at the moment. Ursula K. Le Guin. Hey, Warriors in the Mist. Interesting. She really... I mean, that's just also a figure of a woman where you say, okay, I think women or men can be equally conscious. So whatever is dangling between your legs, so what, man? If I'd been born a woman, I would have arisen to the challenge of being a woman. Okay, Arjuna speaketh again. I have to repeat this. Slayer of Madhu, yet again this yoke, this peace derived from equanimity, made known by thee. I see no fixity therein, no rest, because the heart of man is unfixed. Krishna, rash, tumultuous, willful and strong. Okay, just one more. Yeah, page almost. We're all one, I think. We're all one, I think. We're all one, I think. To hold the wayward wind is tame man's heart. You know, I think we're all one. Yeah, no kidding. But why don't I like you? Because it's so many. Krishna speaketh. Well, the reason why when you keep growing spiritually, it gets usually much quieter. Why? Because there's just less people up here. If you want to call it an up here. But in this meditative space, there's just less going on. And for that you have to get rid of the yeasts, the fungi. I'm just saying yeasts because that's what you're fighting probably today. And from there you have to really, really build up. Okay, Krishna speaketh. Hero long-armed, beyond denial, hard man's heart is to restrain and wavering. Yet may it grow, restrained by habit, Prince. Yeah, habit. But good habits, you know. So you have to sort out your habits. By want of self-command. This yoke, I say, cometh not lightly to the ungoverned ones. But he who will be master of himself shall win it. Master of himself, you gotta spend time on your own if you manage to do so. So also make your own experiences. There's no point, like if you have a wife already, she doesn't always have to accompany you everywhere. Maybe her challenge would be to sit at home and knit. Well, if you've got a stable wife, if your wife knows how to do also things by herself, then she'd appreciate it also. But no man feels like... It's also not nice to feel like you're being gotten rid of. Okay. Yet may it grow restrained by habit, Prince. Okay, by want of self-command. This yoke, I say, cometh not lightly to the ungoverned ones, but he who will be master of himself shall win it if he stoutly strive thereto. Arjuna speaketh, and what road goeth he who, having faith, fails, Krishna? Well, if you've got faith, then you don't really fail. You just have to take it as it comes, and then a failure is just a chance to keep on growing. In the striving, falling back from holiness, missing the perfect rule, is he not lost, straying from Brahma's light? Well, sometimes we must experience the darkness. So what's straying? It's always the idea of a tunnel, which is why you keep on focusing on the light. Like the vain cloud which floats twixt earth and heaven, when lightning splits it and it vanisheth. Fain would I hear thee answer me herein, since, Krishna, none save thou can clear the doubt. Krishna speaketh, he is not lost, thou son of Prita, no, nor earth, nor heaven is forfeit, even for him. Because no heart that holds one right desire treadeth the road of loss. He who should fail, desiring righteousness, cometh at death unto the region of the just, dwells there measureless years, and being born anew, beginneth life again in some fair home amid the mild and happy. It may chance he doth descend into a yogin house on virtue's breast, but that is rare. Sure, such birth is hard to be obtained on this earth. Chief, So hath he back again what heights of heart he did achieve, and so he strives anew to perfectness with better hope, dear prince. So no matter where you become self-aware, so Jung described it as he was just stepping out of a kind of a mist. For me, this stepping out of the mist was first experienced with psychedelics, and later then with breath work. Once I started to stop with psychedelics, then it was obtained with breath work, which is now my method. Okay, this is the thing. He is not lost, thou son of Preta. No, nor earth nor heaven is forfeit even for him. I'm just repeating it. Because no heart that holds one right desire treadeth the road of loss. He who should fail, desiring righteousness, that is Papillon. He failed, but he desired being righteous. And he succeeded in the end. Papillon, the book, right? It's a good book. Cometh at death unto the region of the just, dwells there measureless years, and being born anew, beginneth life again in some fair home amid the mild and happy. So I remember my childhood as only darkness. And I was living in a dark place. I feel like I have worked hard. And now I feel more at ease. And time is really stretching out. Like timelessness, that's what you'll experience. But there's still progress. And that's basically how Gandalf is being described. In the second Lord of the Rings. How he says roughly what happens. No, what happened when he's being asked by his companions. It's when they come to the White Rider. Oh wow, the Two Towers? Oh wow, that's fairly late. I was listening. Yeah, well, also kind of sad. I was listening to Andy Serkis's version of reading The Lord of the Rings. But at some point I had to let go of this because I could no longer listen to other men for stability. So what you're doing now, listening to this, cannot be what you do till the end. I'm just telling you, it's, if you want to take up responsibility, there's no use listening to me and priding yourself that you're listening to this. I'm not sure why I'm stretching this out so far. Yeah, okay. I think we're getting there. Just a second. So here Gandalf relates the story to his, at that time, 3 companions, Legolas, Aragorn, and Gimli. About how he smote down the Balrog. So there's a lot of reference. Then darkness took me, and I strayed out of thought and time. This is dissociation. And I wandered far, on roads that I will not tell. Naked I was sent back for a brief time, until my task is done, and naked I lay upon the mountain top. The tower behind was crumbled into dust, the window gone. The ruined stair was choked with burned and broken stone. I was alone, forgotten, without escape, upon the hard horn of the world. There I lay staring upward, while the stars wheeled over, and each day was as long as a life age of the earth. Yeah. Faint to my ears came the gathered rumor of all lands, the springing and the dying, the song and the weeping, and the slow everlasting groan of overburdened stone. And so at the last Gwaihir the Windlord found me again, and he took me up and bore me away. You know, and that's something you don't get, that the eagles talk. A burden you have been, Gwaihir answered. It says he answered, but it's Gwaihir. But not so now, light as a swan's feather in my claw you are. The sun shines through you, indeed, I do not think you need me any more. Were I to let you fall, you would float upon the wind. Do not let me fall, I gasped, for I felt life in me again. Bear me to Lothlorien. Yeah, it's good to know your way around a good story, so you can recognize when yours isn't. So you need adventure. Okay, let me just finish this paragraph. Check the time. Okay, half past 6. Yeah, don't be silly, man. Stay in the man. It's really hard. It's very unattractive. Yeah, in a certain sense, if you become stable and you have to stay in character, then you cannot make silly voices. Well, maybe you can, but only maybe to show that there's no benefit in it at some stage. Okay, Measureless years and being born anew beginneth life again in some fair home amid the mild and happy. It may chance he doth descend into a Yogin house on virtue's breast, but that is rare. Such birth is hard to be obtained on this earth, chief. So hath he back again what heights of heart he did achieve, and so he strives anew to perfectness. So that's what I said. You start, you have to build yourself up again, you know, okay? Sometimes you have like a reset, then you have to start again. So every time you fail at not masturbating, you have to start again. And until you manage, you will never be a man. You have to refrain from masturbation or you will not ever reach true manhood. And that is a fact. He did achieve, and so he strives anew to perfectness with better hope, dear prince. For by the old desire he is drawn on unwittingly, and only to desire the purity of yoga is to pass beyond the Saptabram, the spoken Ved. But being yogi, striving strong and long, purged from transgressions, perfected by birth, following on birth. So I think this cycle of rebirth, I mean, it happens a lot. We just think, yeah, you go to sleep, you wake up, yeah, but that's also in a way a rebirth. So I wouldn't take this always as, yeah, you know, you die, I still have next life. Yeah, no. You know, you're living now. There's no guarantee you will ever, you know, why would you live like a slouch now? Unless you're gonna have back pains, you're gonna feel miserable. You're trying to do this somehow like good, I mean, yeah. With better hope, dear prince, for by the old desire he is drawn on unwittingly, and only to desire the purity of yoga is to pass beyond to Wow, I read this. Sometimes I don't really read what I'm reading, because I'm too much dwelling on my own thoughts or feelings or ideas in my mind or whatever. But being yogi, striving strong and long, purged from transgressions, perfected by birth, following on birth, he plants his feet at last upon the farther path, such as one ranks above ascetics. Ascetics, that's materialists, that's the people with a body fetish. Yeah, so it's not just about how you look, it's how you feel and what you do, and then the purpose you have. If your purpose is just looking nice, well, higher than the wise, beyond achievers of vast deeds. So you can also do small deeds. Be thou yogi, Arjuna. No, be thou, which is mean you cannot be slayer. And of such belief, truest and best is he who worships me with inmost soul. Yeah, stayed on my mastery. What is your mastery? Yeah, I'm just saying. You know, just teach people, yeah, look at the tree, man. The tree's gonna teach you. I don't have to teach you all of this, just look at the tree. Learn from the tree. If people look at you anyway, well, then it is so. And you cannot help it. You can just seclude yourself. You can just say, hey, do your own stuff, you know. I hold planks, you hold planks, you know, there's your teaching. Here endeth chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita, entitled Atma Sanyama Yoga, or the Book of Religion by Self-Restraint. Okay, was that the teaching, self-restraint? Okay.
Almost 2 hours.
Wow, it's actually crazy. You know why? Because I really enjoyed listening to Ramdas talking about the Bhagavad Gita. But at some point I realized that there was clearly something missing in Ramdas's talks. Plus he only did it for some time. To me, this is really my life. And I really do this because I really believe that this is the path. Hardship. Hardship, not just... You know, I just want to be hard because I was soft too long. I was for far too long, I was too soft, I was too weak. And I worship nature. You know, nature in all its facets. Trees just, you know, growing. Nature just comes out of everything. You can destroy what you think, you know, nature is. It would come back. The desert is nature. You know, the ocean is nature. It's just everywhere, you know. 100 years without us, let's say, keeping nature out, everything would be green again. This would happen so fast. Houses, give it 100 years. It would all just take care of itself. Sure, you'd have some exploding things standing around. And of course, there is a lot of toxicity, but nature will just grow over it. Which is why I just want to still have nature while I'm alive. That's what I say, I just like nature. I don't want to live in some awful desert. I want to have rain also. I want to have something to eat. I don't want to pass on life to coming generations like, I really screwed it all, so here, enjoy. I don't want this. I want to know how can you grow foods. I also want to grow some vegetables, but also just live from the land. But there isn't enough land left, so we can collect acorns. There's a lot of those. And we can collect leaves and flowers and roots and the fruits from beech trees. I don't know how they're called, buckwheat or something. No, I think that's something else. You can make bread with this stuff, or you can cook with it, or just eat it like nuts. You can do so many things that are more interesting than staring at a screen. And that's what I believe we need, right? And so if I can find Africa in an area which people call Germany, it's nature, it's Gaia, that's oneness, it just works together. And it isn't toxic on purpose. I often feel like we're just toxic on purpose, because everything's toxic, you identify with it. Well, there's still nature. I wanted to understand nature, so I studied environmental protection. It was a feeling I had. Could have been random, but it wasn't. It's just something that sparked me. I had a neighbor that was kind of invested also into animal welfare. It kind of sparked me. I don't know. I had a feeling, environmental protection, so I studied it. I didn't really think about it. I just wanted to do this. I don't know, and I just kept on growing from this. And then I realized, well, the real problem is that people have forgotten. Well, why have I forgotten? Okay, sugar, silliness, I need the bitter. Okay, awesome, I need the bitter. The next episode I can start again with pouring some tea. I'll probably just continue reading because I kind of enjoy this kind of stuff. Otherwise I couldn't make such long recordings. And it's clearly gotten much better. I do eat meat. Meat isn't the problem, not to me. Coffee was a real problem, and sugar, and my own just weakness. And that's just really hard. It's just your own weakness, but that's just what any sapling has to go through in nature, growth. So you need to start moving. Hold planks, you're gonna be so grateful. In 5 years, your entire life will be much better. But these 5 years will of course feel like an eternity and like it will never end. But life is an eternity in itself. So what's 1 5-year eternity? If you've then got an eternity of, oh wow, it's finally stable. And for that, hear my message. You can occasionally eat something like muffins with dates. But just don't eat the like sugar. And do not eat every day such muffins. But it's something you can occasionally eat. You know, it's alright. But don't eat it every day. That's the message. And that's what it is, you know. It's just not overindulge yourself. Yeah, but for some time, because now you're just really hungry. You're just stuffing yourself with empty food. Yeah, why is it empty? Well, who's preparing it? You're eating, you know what, junk food? Well, who's preparing it? You know, empty people. Everybody who doesn't go into nature is empty. That's just what I believe. Because the only real power there is in nature, so you have to go into nature. And then you'll absorb, in a sense, nature's energy. And then you can create content with it. But there's also other things, of course, that feed us. But what I draw from the most is my connection with nature. So I get sick if I don't get into nature. And the rest I have to do with diet. Recently I've been running out of spices. That is for me a bit crazy because I've been literally clinging to spices. So at the moment I just keep on using the ones I still have. I still have enough. But it's also good for me to learn to not overindulge with spices because, I mean, if you're really in a dump, nutmeg, green cardamom, you know, also cinnamon, they will, you know, kick you a little because in the beginning it's gonna be really hard, and anything that keeps you awake, you're gonna appreciate it. So in the beginning I worked really hard, but with sugar, it just kept getting worse at some point. So I had to stop with this, and that was a hard choice because I was sugar, you know. I just identified with it, just like so many others. And a lot of people just cannot imagine how it could be without the sugar. Well, keep on making experiences, keep on eating bitter things, drinking. For me, it's a lot about drinking bitter teas. Like I said, the Heidelberger 7 herb star. It's just a mixture, it's not the star, it's 7 herbs. Heidelbergers. So you can look that up. It exists, I have looked it up in English. Okay, here endeth chapter 6. I have already said that. Okay. Yeah.
Enough of the distractions.